Those who came before understood the power of the sun, a force which could dictate life or death in this barren but majestic land. Those who came after worked to make peace with this mighty star. They learned its language, and the sun talked back. There's a new light in the sky tonight, a beacon that says, welcome home. Come and rest, because tomorrow we celebrate another day in our Valley of the Sun.
This could be one of any number of construction sites in the valley on a hot summer day.
I wear a bandana inside my hard hat that I wring out about 4 times a day. I go through about 3 gallons of water a day.
Well, I've been doing it something like 32 years, so until something better comes along, I got to get used to it, you know.
Today is my hottest day.
Yeah, if you have arthritis and stuff like that, if you stay in this trade very long, you get where your bones hurt and your muscles ache, and the heat's good for it. 120, I like 120.
And these white-collar conferees might seem worlds away, cool-headed professionals discussing and deciding. What they have in common is an idea to make the world's best-managed city even more productive, to advance into the future its commitment to serve the people, and to present to the next century an image of Phoenix as it is in the 90s, optimistic, forward-looking, and aware. It's a new city hall.
You know, whenever I need to get a real proper perspective on the things, I only have to look across the street. The historic City Hall, which was dedicated in 1929, reminds us of where we have come from. And then we look across to the Calvin Good Municipal Building, and that was dedicated in 1963, and that symbolized the tremendous growth Phoenix had experienced, coming from a very small town and growing rapidly.
And by the early 90s, the population had exploded, and Phoenix had many more citizens to be served. The too small City Hall, built in 1963, had spilled over, and the city had to rent space all over town. The inconvenience was maddening to taxpayers who had to bounce between buildings on city business.
It was in different buildings, different floors on different buildings, so you might have to go to 3 or 4 buildings if you were pulling, say, a simple permit to build a house in the city of Phoenix.
A new home for the citizens and employees was vital.
It will save the city money in the long term. We will be consolidating from 15 different locations where we currently lease space to the new City Hall complex in conjunction with the existing building that we're in today.
Good afternoon and welcome to the foundation pouring ceremony for the new City Hall project.
It was the early 90s, and the time to strike was now. Those days were the very bottom of the recession.
With over 800 jobs related to this project, it does have an important role in the local economy. In fact, this building is the largest building under construction in Phoenix right now.
And we think that's not only going to create jobs as far as building this building is concerned, but it's going to keep barbers working, it's going to keep many different folks working out in the retail trades and create some jobs in Phoenix, Arizona.
This is the largest project I've ever been on, and I just can't imagine it being put together, but it's getting together, yeah.
All agreed it was a blessing to have a job.
Oh yeah, right, especially this time of the year. Everything's kind of hard, and everybody's getting out of school, and it's much harder to get a job right now for a lot of people.
The splash this created rippled across the local economy. Bob Aylesworth, Executive Vice President of Huber Hunt & Nichols, the construction firm chosen to build the project, worked with 250 material vendors and 50 subcontractors. Bob worked a lot.
Over there every week. We're real proud of the effort. It's a great building. It's got a lot of interesting design. I think the city got a great bang for the buck. We've always understood that it accomplished the larger purpose of consolidating city services. We're real proud of the work effort.
Thank you, sir. That's my only observation from my tour yesterday.
To try and help keep the project on time and under budget, city engineer Kenny Harris was brought in as a key team player.
It's been a mad dash, like running the quarter mile since for the last 3 years, and you're almost out of breath, but you feel the burden of the the mass of the project and the number of people and the group dynamics, and you're trying to orchestrate it all and manage it all. And it gets overwhelming sometimes.
To help finance the project, the city raised over $50 million by selling bonds. And once again, the financial planners struck at the right time. The interest rate the city must repay on the bonds was at an all-time low. Because of the city's excellent financial condition and economic conditions in the fall of 1993, the city sold the $50 million in bonds at 5.35%.
So we had an additional gain for the project because of the lower interest rates and the fact that we'll be able to maintain, and we know that we'll have a level debt service for the project over the next 30 years while lease costs continue to escalate.
Bringing the idea from brainstorming to move-in required skill, management, and the right kind of knowledge.
First thing to do was to hire a construction management firm that could then sit with me and then go and hire the architect. So once we started hiring the staff team, we knew we only had about 11 months to have a design started and completed.
The city chose the Benham Group.
I'm really the city's consulting agent to see to it that an entire process is organized in such a way that a building and the attendant scope of furniture and site development, all those kinds of things, is brought in on a budget, on a schedule.
The pressure was on, and what seemed to be an infinite number of details which needed attending was mind-boggling. Was it hard to sleep at night?
It is every once in a while enough to keep you up at night because there's so much money involved and the deadlines are really very tough.
We're currently on the 10th floor.
Another key player on the city's team, Reed Caldwell, already knows a lot about working long nights, weekends, and holidays.
I got two little daughters, and they didn't see Dad for a long time. I brought them down here a lot more than anybody knows. I brought them down here a lot during construction. They actually saw the building when it was a third the way up.
I knew that I could also call on Reed at any point in time to take care of the engineering aspects of the building, and still he is invaluable to us.
By October '92, things were looking up and going well.
We are currently working through the balance of interior finishes, down to such details as what are the general upholstery schemes for new chairs.
And giving input on everything from chairs to housekeeping rules were those who know best, the employees.
We actually formed an employee committee that helped us select the furniture that we now have in the building so that we had what people wanted. And we included employees, all levels of employees, from clerical to management staff.
It was also a terrific opportunity.
It was then up to architect Michael Schrader of Langdon Wilson to help carry out the desires of staff, management, and, as city manager Frank Fairbanks emphasizes over and over, the customer.
He was concerned about that first-time visitor and making sure that it was not an ominous, 21-step experience, arriving at the front door, but welcoming people, and therefore there are 4 major entrances.
Schrader also honored the city's request to preserve Phoenix's past, yet keep in step with the future. The effect is a unique one. Schrader incorporated a solid wall of Phoenix history into new City Hall. Imagine, if you will, what went on behind those old red bricks that brought the outside world to the desert in the 20s. The Orpheum Theater is one of the city's most historic places. Long before TV, it was the connection to the more popular culture of the day. It was high society, and out here in one of the country's new estates, we were definitely not in the mainstream.
It was originally built as a movie palace and was the grandest movie palace west of the Mississippi. And over the years it had several name changes, but it was a place for legitimate theater, musicals, Broadway, all sorts of performances.
Today's Orpheum is an important link to Phoenix's past. In the 80s, voters approved $7 million in bonds to restore it to its original majesty. But more was needed.
Dell and Jewel Lewis are the co-chair of the Orpheum Theater Restoration Campaign. This campaign is raising the $4 million of private donations needed to complete the restoration.
Well on their way to almost meeting their goal, one clever way of fundraising is putting your name not in lights, but at your feet.
There's stars here, cool.
Buying a brick ensures a brand of immortality and helps preserve a piece of Phoenix's past. And what better way to remember our history than by linking past and future together? When the new City Hall project came up, it was decided to build it on land the city already owned and wrap it around the Orpheum, which was already ours, like a hand around a glass.
And we thought, what a better way to continue to honor the history of Phoenix than to pull the building away 40 feet from the Orpheum Theater and make that interior wall of the Orpheum Theater become the background for an atrium. So while people walk up the stair to the second and third floors, they're again reminded of an important piece of Phoenix's history.
New City Hall is itself a historic place after all. It will represent Phoenix for the next 100 years. So what kind of statement should the building make about Phoenix?
We strove really hard during the design process, and this is with everyone involved, to make a building that would look right in Phoenix and not necessarily anywhere else. There is not really an overall theme for City Hall, but if there is a driving energy, it is sunlight. We thought that the most obvious and beautiful reference for signage for announcing that it is City Hall is the sun.
The builders made the sun prominent once again. They've made a building that catches sunlight and bounces it, that's always interacting with it, no matter what the time of day. A building that, as Michael Schrader puts it, has a dialogue with the sun. The medium of choice? Stainless steel. Lots of it.
Because it is such a beautiful, neutral, maintenance-free material. Unlike brass or bronze or aluminum, which are the common vocabulary we employ, stainless steel is colorless, and it most honestly reflects back the conditions of the sky.
Stainless steel has a long, long, long life.
On this day, he is overseeing the placement of what some say is the building's crowning glory, the 90-foot spire on top, 386 feet above the ground. This is definitely a prominent statement of pride and grandeur in stainless steel.
I've traveled pretty much the country over, and I've never seen anything like it. I've been involved in the setting of other spires, but they were not in any way, shape, or form representative of what we just did.
The top of the building is not only beautiful, but also serves as a camouflage to hide the usually exposed physical plant machinery seen on top of most buildings downtown. And when the sun sets, New City Hall transforms into its nighttime splendor, a beacon in the night, made possible by a ray of light up the south face of the spire.
Some would want to call it a neon light, but that's not really what it is. It's a linear diffuser light. And it's going to be seen from miles and miles and miles away at night.
As the building progresses, carrying its precious cargo is one of the stars of the construction crew, Bill, that fellow way up on top who runs the crane.
All the lifting that's done on this job is done through a tower crane. The operator, what you see up there, Bill, he climbs the train, spends about 8 to 12 hours up there a day. He gets to talk to people. It's not as lonely job as you think, because he's wired to about 6 different people who have constant access to him and radio access to him. And he also has there's 2 frequencies that they're using on the job.
Another standout player on the city's management team is project coordinator Jane Morris. Since the late 80s, Jane has lived and breathed New City Hall.
The 6 years probably started really slow, and then as the building got designed, as the building contract got let, then all the details became more important.
I could count on her, and she was here for any time of the day or night to get something done on this project, and served as an excellent project coordinator. She actually had 2 children at 2 different births during the course of the construction and development of this project. So she's had a number of changes personally as well as working on this project, and never missed a beat. There were many times during this project where the team, I know members of the team, felt as though we might not make it to the end, because there were many challenging moments and hours and days to get this kind of project underway and accomplished.
When all else failed, humor kept them going. It helped especially when the rumor monster would raise its ugly head.
We got a call one day that said they wanted to know what we were going to do since the 4th floor had collapsed. And we said, gosh, we hate it when that happens. There was a loud, something fell on the construction site, and it got interpreted as a floor had collapsed.
Despite long hours, everyone met the challenge. The construction process moved from beginning to end to move-in day, which happened precisely right on time, before the leasing contracts expired. For the 2,000 people from 15 locations who moved in, morale is way up.
I love it. I think it's so neat. So cool. It's not really all the way ready, but when it's ready, it's going to be so neat.
I think it's just fantastic. I really like it. It's like getting a new job.
It seems so small before you start packing.
What do you do with something that's bigger that doesn't fit in this size box? So you have to be very inventive in order to be able to figure out a way to put these things in here.
Moving into the new building became an event. Knowing what all those extra employees would mean to the downtown economy, some wise soul sent the very best.
The flower stand over at 49 West Jefferson sent them over to the city of Phoenix for opening day. Our staff is frequent in the flower stand, and they sent us over as a welcoming present.
We'll have close to 2,000 people just in this immediate area, and we think that'll also be good for downtown in terms of business, to the local businesses in the downtown area.
I need a list of all the new inhabitants of the City Hall building because I need to get all the catering in that area.
On this moving day, employees could have used some extra nourishment. While hectic and even at times apprehensive, spirits were high.
It's easy to like. It's easy to like because I've got windows. After being in a building for 12 years without windows, it's just superb.
All positive. Everybody loves the building. They're real thrilled with it.
Probably the most satisfying points were after every move, which there was 12 of them. The employees, after the end of the move, sat down and said, "Jane, we did it." And that felt great.
I think it's great. It's going to be a great addition for the downtown.
The artwork on the very top caught my eye first.
Good to see what we actually spend our money on, and you know, it's just a glorious building.
It's got a lot of lights. It's pretty. I like it.
I think it's a great building. I moved down here from the Plaza Municipal building, and I tell you what, the facilities are a lot better to work in and a lot easier to work in.
Reed Caldwell remembers the outpouring of thanks from many.
One of them that comes to mind is Jim Colley, Director of Park Recreation Library. He is so happy to be near everybody.
Well, I felt like the king of City Hall because a number of years we were in the basement at the Municipal Plaza building. In fact, it was so embarrassing that when my colleagues from other cities came, I would meet them at the Hyatt. I would not even invite them to the basement.
For Jim, now he can show those out-of-towners his view and his proximity to decision makers.
I can work here at my desk till 5 minutes before the meeting and get the elevator and meet with anybody in City Hall. The thing I've been impressed with, too, on a number of occasions, a city council person would call and say, "I need to talk with you," and I said, "I'll be right down." They said, "No, I'll be right up."
The new layout is now about 80% open space and 20% closed, almost the reverse of what employees knew before.
Once in a great while, I mean, you take your eyes away from the terminal and you can see something, you know, other than just the walls.
But as much as city leaders want to please their employees, who are in turn more productive, it's you, the citizen, who will best be served.
So you were very efficient.
Oh, great. Tell my boss that.
And we have a one-stop office on the first floor where a citizen could come and pay any kind of bill, whether it's paying a water bill or paying for a parking ticket, obtaining a permit for a park activity. That can all be done on the first floor.
Despite some hammering noise and some fire drill blasts, business was as usual on opening day.
I feel pretty comfortable that this is a top-of-the-line building. All the fire systems in here are all being approved by us.
This is a lot closer. It's a real nice place. It's much bigger. And they should be able to get the customers out a whole lot sooner.
The super counter on the second floor is an open counter area where any customer, anytime, can get just about any permit required by the city. No more ping-ponging around between buildings.
We used to have 8 different divisions from 3 different departments on 3 different floors in a building to one large counter area. We're all in close proximity, so it makes it easier for staff to confer with each other and for customers to move from one area to another.
To keep all the customers and employees cool when the temperatures soar, building planners turn to the newest cost-saving technology. These air movers now provide air cooled by water, water that is itself cooled in a giant underground thermal tank under the parking garage. These giant chillers cool water only at night when the city can get a cheaper rate from Arizona Public Service. That saves taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars.
You're finishing a building, you think, have we done everything as well as we can? And I think we have. I think it's a state-of-the-art building and one that we're very proud of from an energy conservation standpoint.
The building is also narrower from west to east than from north to south, limiting exposure to the heat. More savings to the taxpayer. The windows are not only protected by screens, but are set back, and even though they're specially treated, the view is still clear. Lighting also saves energy by boosting the output of the bulbs by 20%. It's all part of an integrated management system that makes all kinds of decisions.
When to shut different parts of the building off, whether to shut the fans off, whether to shut off the lights, how much chill water to make, when to start the chillers to make the chill water. All those decisions are in the energy management system for the building, which is like the brain of the building.
The system will even turn out the lights if you leave, but it can be overridden.
This is the main, go ahead and step on in and join us. This is the main chiller room for the building.
For those who come and take the tour of the building, there are definite favorites.
I like the fact that they kept the old wall from the Orpheum Theater and the open area down in the lobby.
I think it's a gorgeous building. I like all of the facilities. I like the design. The architecture is really tremendous.
But the first thing you see when you walk in the southwest entrance is getting lots of attention.
My very greatest hopes would be that as people see the mural and view the mural, that it being as interesting as it is will make them want to pursue the history.
A selection panel considered 60 artists before choosing Copeland, who spent months creating a 25-foot-long mural and half-finished future office space across the street from City Hall.
50 figures and a continuity of history from prehistoric times to contemporary and beyond. There's some reference to the future at the end. The mural reads from left to right. Now, there are only three names of real people in the mural. Jack Swilling is represented here, his wife Trinidad Escalante, and Daryl Dupa, who is said to have named the city.
Every figure, every background scene has some relevance to the story of Phoenix.
It really can't be overestimated, the impact of the coming of the railroad. Not only did it bring in raw materials to build the city, but able to export all of our exports out. And also word spread across the country about the healthy nature of the air, the desert air in Phoenix. During the 20s now, after 1910, 1920s, ostrich plumes were very much in vogue. And we had a big ostrich ranches here in Phoenix. So here's an ostrich head. Basically, the workers in the building, too, have been very supportive. Very supportive. Particularly, I think my highest endorsement comes from Wilma, who sits at the information desk and came over and gave me the thumbs up. And she's the one who has to sit underneath it, and so she is actually one of the most important ones to me.
Everybody's fascinated by this painting up here. Tell me about it. Arts Commission brought out a whole brochure. Super nice. They explained the whole thing.
Joel Copeland wasn't the only creative talent working on site. In a way, everyone involved in the project is an artist of one type or another.
I've never seen a pattern like that in the 33 years I've been in the business. So when I saw it, I decided I wanted to do this job one way or the other. Whether I had to leave the company, which I've worked for 23 years, to do the job.
And leave he did, so he could work on the project with the company that won the bid. Carl Rodriguez works with Terrazo, epoxy, rosin, marble chips, mixed together, grounded and polished. Down the street, you can see Carl's work at the state capitol.
You can go back and look at some of these floors that are 30, 40 years old, and if they're maintained, or you can always go back and regrind them.
He's a very humble and quiet man. but we're certainly happy that he played a big role in the development of this project. And the Terrazo is beautiful. It's not an especially expensive material, but something very durable. And this man worked tirelessly for months and months to complete the Terrazo for this building.
Of course, when they see me, and I don't care if I was dirty or however I was, the first thing they do is come over and shake my hand. And that's a great feeling.
Not only did Carl's emotions touch those around him, some of his creativity must have rubbed off too.
As we started to understand the structure itself, and we said, well, as you spill out from the structure, what would be nice to run into? Cars, parking or moving on the street, or no cars. And we were bold and aggressive throughout this whole process. And we said, well, we want to close the street down. And that's where then we said, we need a pedestrian space out front. And all this started to fall in place.
The desire early on was to unite, to strive to unite these three buildings and create a municipal center, not just a new city hall.
The result is the plaza running along the east side of the building, skipping across Washington, and ending in a park-like setting between old and new city halls. Not only does the Orpheum tie in with the plaza design, but First Interstate Bank redesigned its extensive remodeling plan to complement the plaza. In the center of this restful space is Phoenix's own employee memorial, a tribute to those who've died in the line of duty. The dedication ceremony for the Phoenix Employee Memorial was held in the winter of 1994. It gave the city and the families of those who have served a chance to meet again and to remember.
1982, John Davis. 1984, Kenneth Campbell. 1984, Earl Rusty Hawkins. 1984, Robert Palmatier. On behalf of these officers and their families, we thank the citizens of Phoenix for this fitting memorial.
It was a bittersweet day for families, a day to feel grief again and loss, but pride too, and sweet memory.
It means a lot to me. It actually makes me feel real proud that the city has not forgotten the things that my father and other city employees did, putting their life on the line.
We were raised together. I was the oldest and he was the second. And we went through a lot of things, Boy Scouts, National Guard. We even went through 6 months training at Fort Ord, California. And it was like having a twin brother next to you, your own shadow right there. To me, that's what it seemed like. And I'm very, very proud of him.
From the very beginning, I would have to say that what was the most challenging and what was the most alluring aspect of this project for me was that I was not doing this for myself. I was doing this for a number of people, and they weren't mystery people. They were very real.
Before you knew it, we had sort of set up a profile. We need a garage close by. We need things to be inviting and open. We need a separate elevator bank for the public to get where they most commonly go.
Getting where she needed to go meant a lot to city employee Patricia Wilson.
It's very accessible. There are two entrances that I use, entrances and exits that I use. It probably appears intimidating. Just think, well, you're on the 16th floor. Try it. Come on down, try it.
The new City Hall makes an indelible stamp on our city. For those involved in shepherding the project from idea to reality, it's been a once-in-a-lifetime ride.
That's the satisfaction we take, that these are landmark projects that add to the skyline that we and our employees can point to having successfully participated in the completion of an ambitious development.
It's responding to a command charge.
Get a building done that'll last as a significant public building ought to last, and that it needs to be a building that truly represents the city of Phoenix as a forward-looking city. And I think that's been accomplished.
It was not just a building, it was about Phoenix's history, and that we were, in a way, transmission lines, and had the obligation to help the city see itself.
Mayors, council members, citizen volunteers, and employees have worked together since then to accomplish this goal.
Carter, who knows this building about as well as I do. He's come down here almost every weekend. He's been here on all the moves. He knows where my office is. It's a thrill to be a part of it. My family's here. My dad flew from Chicago to be here. He opened a City Hall 30 years ago, and so this was exciting for him to come.
Jane's dad, former city manager of Glencoe, Illinois, realizes his talents have been passed on.
Well, I think this building is fabulous. It's a great building, and it's about 30 times larger than the building we built in Illinois.
The building is complete. It's fun to be part of the completion of a building like this.
It's funny because now when we're on the freeway, my son often says, "Oh, look, there's Mom's building." And yeah, mine with about 3,000 other people.
Coming right off the arena, which is a great project, you know, and I have to sign all these construction contracts. You go from there to City Hall, and then you turn and you go to a library, an art museum, a history museum, a science museum. Someday, somewhere, somebody's going to say, who was a city engineer during those days?
As I said earlier, we build a City Hall every 30 years. I was fortunate that it fell in the middle of my career. There's a little tiny small bit of ego related to immortality in that, oh, your grandfather worked on that building when they built it. The building's going to be here a long time.
I think all of us have a bit of the ownership in the project. It is exciting to look at the building. You can see the spire with the light and see the skyline and know that's City Hall.
There's a new light in the sky tonight, a beacon that says, welcome home. Come and rest, because tomorrow we celebrate another day in our Valley of the Sun.